day 2 of the July 99 7-day retreat in Springwater. What to talk about as a gentle breeze blows right through this room, touching the skin, the hair, the dogs. Breathing. Is the breathing there with the wind? Someone said, it's really helpful, several people said, really helpful to concentrate on the breathing, coming back, as it were, to the breathing. It grounds one, makes one more present, less enveloped in thoughts. Is that okay to concentrate on the breathing? Whom are you asking? There's nothing prescribed here, even though it may sound like this in our guidelines or on the instructions given on the balcony, or we hope it's taken lightly not to go through the metal doors. It's all right if there's an emergency, you can go through the roof. It's just if we don't mention it and it's click, 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 click. So, you can do anything, almost anything you want to here as far as your meditation practice is concerned. If you want to carry on with what you've learned, it's all right. There's no one to assign practices or take them away. What I talk about is an offering to look at something together, which you may or may not wish to do, which you may or may not wish to experiment with. It's up to you. I'm available. In the last retreat, there was someone who was here for the first time and had practiced for 6 years a vipassana meditation. And she felt quite uneasy in the beginning, first several days, about this lack of structure and lack of discipline in herself, sleeping longer, walking more, sitting less. But she brought the questions to individual and group meetings, and we looked at it all. This desire for discipline, imposed discipline, as though this human being, this body-mind, was incapable of arousing energy when it is really interested. It is very capable of generating interest, the energy of interest to look in quietness. Even nobody says you have to do it. But one has to learn about this new way, that it's okay, it's possible, and go through this withdrawal period of not having the usual pressures, restrictions, etc. And toward the end of the retreat, this person wrote me a lengthy note thanking and saying there was some opening she had never experienced before, some widening, and a gladness that this was possible without outer pressure. So, what are we doing here? This question comes, particularly when someone is here for the first time. What are you doing in sitting? How do I do this thing? And the first answer is, I don't know. And is this a genuine I don't know, or sort of throwing up one's arms and eyeballs in despair? Is it many different I don't knows? The one that I'm referring to is this truly not knowing, and therefore sort of more freedom from all the stuff we know of how to do something and entering into it freshly. Not knowing. Sitting, not knowing what to do, and sort of coming in touch with this amazing human body-mind, with its incredible sensitivities, at first hidden from consciousness, from awareness. Maybe through long habit shut down. People who mention to me that they don't feel anything, they feel numb. And then maybe during a sitting in which the controlling mind relaxes. This is one of the byproducts of sitting patiently. There's a little bit less control. In this surface consciousness. And up bubble things which have not been allowed to the surface. Not just in thought, but in sensations, feelings. Now often the question is brought, what do I do with this incredible remembrance, overwhelming remembrance of sorrow, fear, anxiety, grief, anger? What do I do with it? And again start with not knowing what to do with it. And yet it's here, it has come up, has its own significance, that something comes up and need not be interpreted. And maybe some feeling that had been numbed for decades awakens. Somebody once told me, going to an intensive, a 3-day intensive, where the object was to come in touch with one's feelings. And she said, finally it worked for me, and what came up was incredible pain, but it was so joyous to feel something. It's hard for someone like myself, who's always felt very deeply and strongly, all through my childhood, to fathom growing up without feeling. But I can understand it. I think my brother shut down a lot of his feelings. There's some mechanism in his brain and body to shut down feelings when enough is enough, as a self-protective mechanism, also called repression. So, like this woman who was glad to feel something even though it was pain, to feel the significance of things coming up and the opportunity to feel it, where it stresses, strains, twinges, hurts, aches, intestines, in the stomach, in the chest, choking feeling in the throat maybe, heart thumping, perspiration, maybe muscles tensing, as though to lash out or protect oneself. To be in touch with that in a way that doesn't make a big deal out of it. That's a fine thing. To sense it, feel it, experience it, to get together with the bird chirping. It may not be possible at first. Or it may. It won't predict anything. But what is needed is sort of a gentle interest in what is going on in a human being like you and me, sitting in silence, in a beautiful spot on this earth. So beautiful it could make the eyes tear as one looks and listens and smells the fragrance of milkweed and whatever all is out there, perfuming this earth. So, how to be in touch with pain or anger or grief? There's no how to. Start out by not knowing, but watch the sometimes ever so subtle attempts of the body and mind to push it away, to resist it with an implied feeling, maybe not quite verbalized. I can't stand this, or I can't, I can't survive this. Too much. Don't assume that any longer. This sitting and meditating, inquiring, is a making conscious of stuff that has been unconscious, and therefore polluting. Everything that is not conscious has a certain toxic effect on this body-mind by automatizing it, running roughshod over itself. So, welcome the fact that something presents itself to be felt, sensed, without making a thing out of it. And by a thing out of it, I mean this untiring urgency or capacity of the brain to weave something into a story and slip from the direct experience into the story about what's happening to me. Somehow or other we seem to be much more comfortable in the story, much more at home. It can be embellished, added to, subtracted from. And me, the hero or heroine in it, or the victim, which is also being a hero. To watch it, it is as more fascinating than any video or that you could see. And the emotions that are aroused not by the incident itself, that may, we talked about this, memory comes up, and with it unfelt and unexpected emotions, feelings, sensations. But then the story taking over and really going into emotioning about it. feeling good about oneself, feeling sorry for oneself, feeling guilty about what one did, angry about what somebody else did. Amazing, amazing capacity of brain story to arouse and keep agitating this body. To feel that too, but also to see the connection, very vital. And it is, in spite of what we started out with, how necessary it is to make alive or let come alive what was numb, repressed, suppressed, the utter importance of that, and then also the realization that it is not necessary to keep emoting with the story about it. That this keeps the body-mind in darkness, entangled, shut in and shut off. And there's an amazing wisdom that comes about and grows with understanding these processes. Just coming down from the northwestern path this morning, never ever has the forest been more beautiful, with this light shining through the leaves and branches, all kinds of animals and birds, such fresh air, so fragrant, the sound of pine needles and branches underfoot. The incredible beauty of it all. And a thought arose, just the tip end of it. I will never take this walk with Kyle again. And with that thought, not more than that, it's a flash of a thought. A convulsive feeling in the chest, up to the throat, the eyes getting involved. And seeing it, seeing the whole thing, and not going with it. Not going with it. And there is nothing repressive about that. It may not always work like this, and the feeling becomes overwhelming, and tears flow as though a dam was broken. But if it is seen and seen wisely, then seeing it wisely is also seeing a potential contraction about to take place away from this seamless life, all around one and inside one, which includes Kyle, whatever his state may be. I can feel right now, I could enter into this and begin to sob, or stay here with everyone and everything and not enter into a sad story which really connects with the emotion. Just alone how it is worded. And the fact of it is undoubtable. It's true. We won't walk on that path together again. It is so. I won't walk there with my father either, or my brother, or with millions of people who have died. Millions, billions, trillions. aren't here anymore. And yet, this moment is full of life. The beauty of it, the wholeness of it. The inseparableness of it. So, in sitting down, of a morning or afternoon or evening, when the question arises, what should I do? Can it switch into, what is there? What is here? What is going on? Not in a demanding way, but in a sort of interested, sensitive way. Sometimes all these talks that are given, and one may have heard dozens of tapes and read books, can become very confusing to the mind. Should I now listen? Should I attend? Should I be with it? Etc. And it becomes confusing. Start with not knowing, and let the tapes run if they will, but there's no need to be confused by them. The things that are said and written are for this moment. We're into this together right now. Maybe something is clear and undividedly here for all of us, or some of us, I don't know. It's not necessarily meant to carry this around, but the brain picks it up, and it is so repetitive, unbelievably repetitive, going over and over, whether it's a song or something somebody said. It's almost tirelessly repetitive. Part of it. We said there are many other parts of the brain which may not even have been touched yet. So, unconfuse yourself by starting with not knowing. And therefore, there is a bird chirping. I don't even know. There are real bird experts in here who know what this bird is. Maybe what its age is. Sometimes when I allow the story to start, I feel very inferior about knowing so little about birds. But one can still watch them and love them and enjoy them. And watch that one doesn't project, because at times they seem so hectic. Never sitting long, off there, back there, here, there. To not fall into that rhythm oneself as one watches the birds. Remain calm. So there's always something going on. There's always breathing going on. And this is why, since the most ancient of times, meditation practitioners have used listening or attending to the breathing as a stabilizing way. It works. It works. And one of the first books I read outside of Zen to get some more information of what happens to this body, I read in a Tibetan book, the Secret Doctrine, Six Secret Doctrine, something like that. A nice description of the way of thought and how thought is connected with the breathing, and with every inhalation, every exhalation. I don't quite remember the precisely, but there's a change of thinking, change of thought. But by focusing on the breathing, this change of thinking can be released by concentrating on this breathing process. If it's not concentrated upon, the thinking sort of changes every time the breath changes. I may not report this quite accurately, but it is an ancient, revered practice. But is more than an ancient revered practice. What we live on. We wouldn't live without it for a few minutes, or we'd be gone without this breath. And maybe to really be in touch with every pore of this body involved in whatever this is may not be possible if we're too concentrated on this thing for dear life, because I want to deepen my meditation practice. I want to be grounded. I don't want to be distracted. But what are the distractions that bother and burden this human body-mind? Shouldn't we have some acquaintance with them, rather than shutting them out by concentrating on the breathing? And by making acquaintance with the distracting thoughts, I don't mean keep on thinking them. That's sometimes not clear. When we say, be aware of what thoughts are in the mind, or rather have been in the mind as you wake up for a moment. And the most recent thoughts are in the hopper still. Can still be viewed at a glance. Of course, I was thinking about myself, my past, my future. What will happen to me? What good things, what bad things? What do I have to guard against? Where do I have to make order? You can see that at a glance without thinking about it, just seeing it as it displays itself at a moment of coming to. And then there's nothing to do about it, except maybe wondering what else is going on beside endless thinking. Maybe a deep breath comes up, or a shallow breath. Maybe the heart is pounding because of what one has been thinking about, something anxious or guilt feelings. The body is aroused, something pleasurable. So to be in touch with what's there without making a big deal out of it. Without really knowing a method to use. So the mind is unencumbered by systems. It isn't, because there's so many systems here already. But why add another one? Rather, become aware of being systematized out of life. And since at times, I do say, when there's really something comes up, fear, anger, and when there is a deep awareing of it, a presence, that stuff peters out. It doesn't maintain itself because its lifeline is cut off. The lifeline being more story to make me more angry or more fearful. But then, rightly so, people say, look, I'm aware of being angry or afraid, but it goes on. It keeps on going. The awareness does not seem to dissipate it. Okay, it doesn't, so it doesn't. Be aware of the fact that this time it is not dissipated. It goes on. And keep being with it, not sort of just give up and now think about how futile this process is, or how hopeless a case I am, a loser, you name it, for yourself. Stay with it. The fact keeps on going. How come? Maybe this curiosity is aroused. Why does this keep going? What keeps it going? What fuels it? And then you come, very likely, about a memory-filled story. You may also come upon the fact you don't want to let go of this story. There's a tremendous attachment to our stories, because that's me, that's us. We are our stories. with all the physical accompaniment. And to watch with amazement the attachment to painful stories which make us feel unhappy, disappointed, negative. And maybe the attachment is strong because it has not really been thoroughly irradiated with attention, which also means questioning it. Why go on with this? And is this really me? Question that conviction. And if it isn't, then what is me? Other than endless circuits of thinking and memorizing, remembering and emoting, desiring, fearing, you name it. So, everything leads to everything in this work. We don't give up, and I don't even know right now how one does give up once one has gotten into this. It's not give upable, is it? Maybe it is. Somebody said that this morning. You can get far away in all kinds of pursuits. Far away from being here in all simplicity, open, vulnerable, ready to meet what comes. Not knowing how. Somehow or other, there's tremendous wisdom in life. And this body-mind is life, which meets itself in unfathomable ways. Too hard to express in words, but it happens. Even though words may not be able to formulate it, meeting what comes up completely. Without a technique. Just noticing the resistances. We touched upon it a little while ago. I won't survive this. I can't stand it. We don't even put it this way, but the body recoils from fully experiencing itself. Because somehow, somewhere, there is some idea that this is dangerous, life-threatening, probably dating to early childhood. Can only wonder in watching news of these millions of children in these incredible upheavals of atrocious wars, witnessing what they're witnessing. Death and rape of their parents, etc., their siblings, grandparents. What happens to these young minds and bodies? I don't know. Sometimes, miraculously, they are not all encapsulated by shutdown and repression. So, no matter what we've gone through earlier that has contributed to this hard shell of pseudo-protection, it's all right when something bubbles up right now to touch it, to feel it. And such a relief to find it's okay, it's possible. Something changes. It's not what one thought. it was. Fear, pain, anger, guilt is not what we think it is. It changes under this magnifying glass of attention. Like the sun burns a hole in the tablecloth. And it goes through a magnifying glass. No more tablecloth. Maybe no more table. So to discern the fine line between experiencing what presents itself and spinning a story and then reacting to the story, which may produce very similar symptoms, sometimes identical. But the human mind, when energized by interest and energy gathering from quiet sitting, has that power to discern and to see and to make transparent what is going on within itself. It's not the thinking mind that has that power. It is awareness, which is not of the thinking mind. It makes it transparent. If some of these things are not clear, hard to understand, easy to misunderstand, no need to try to figure it out. Just hear it. And let it sit there, ununderstood if it's not understood. I've sometimes mentioned in a talk how years ago I would come upon books, quotations of sayings of spiritual teachers, and I was amazed at how could somebody say that? Where was he or she coming from? What did it mean? But never was there a desire to ridicule or brush it off, say, well, they're off, they're the cuckoo. Not possible. It was sort of, somewhere it was retained and it kept operating. Wondering. And then, how marvelous when, oh yes, this is what is meant, this is so. It can happen. we will end here for today.